Do you want to win more fights in Escape from Tarkov? Do you want to take down more PMCs, hit more headshots, have better aim overall in FPS? I'm going to show you a really simple method that's helped me and several of my friends get better at aiming in the game. Now what you want to do is pick a loadout that you would like to use in a raid where you survive. I say that because newer players can tend to suffer from gear fear, where they get some nice items and then they're scared to use them from that point, so they just sit in their stash. Well, if somebody hasn't already told you, if you're not using it, it's already lost. So pick a loadout where you have a cool gun you think you'd like and throw on your best gear, a bunch of ammo and meds, and go all out, like you're preparing to fight a horde of zombies or scabs. Then you're going to take that kit, you're going to go to Escape from Tarkov, select the factory map at whatever time you want and select enable offline mode. You can select other maps here, but I recommend just doing this on factory for the best effect. Then in the settings, I recommend setting the scab amount to high so you have plenty to deal with, and I tend to leave the setting on as in online, so it's simulating how scabs will act in real raids. But if you just want to chill out a bit more, you can tone that down and it's really up to your preference. Then simply load in and start practicing shooting scabs. Start practicing dealing with the AI and getting a feel for the gunplay. Tarkov has such unique gunplay that for new players especially, it can take a huge amount of getting used to. So here's some key things that you can work on within this practice environment. Number one is crosshair placement and point fire. Tarkov's hipfire is not actually hipfire, as most FPS players tend to call it. In this game, you're actually doing what's called point firing, where the weapon is raised and aimed, but the character isn't fully leaned in looking through the optical sight. In Tarkov, this is considered the norm for most veteran players, and you'll quite often see them point firing in closer engagements. You'll quite often find that more experienced players are generally aware of where the shot is going, center screen at their target, and they might rely less on lasers, or maybe not. This being personal preference once you get to a certain point. However, a good method for newer players to learn in this practice environment is to run a laser on your gun and get used to having good crosshair placement through the cornering obstacles. What you can do is try and set the laser and your reticle sort of level of where your barrel's aiming at about where the head height of a character would be. This helps by playing against real scavs that are happening in this practice environment, and you can try and sort of set it as you come around corners, hip fire and kill. Number two is different gun feels. Now what I mean by that is different guns are going to have different recoil and feelings, and of course with Tarkov's wide range of weaponry, you're going to want to learn these to offer you more options when you're out there in your PMC. The current wipe has made more guns viable than ever, and statistics on guns aren't as important, to be honest. Ergonomics is probably the one that plays the biggest role right now, with recoil not being as huge of a factor currently with how the recoil is set in the game. A lot more stuff is viable and usable even with like a higher recoil stat. So it might be a better time to try out any of those new guns that you haven't tried out before, or maybe one that you've always wanted to but never really given a go in the past. This can all be done obviously in the shooting range, but I just definitely don't think it has the same effect as if you're shooting live scav targets and getting used to actually shooting at moving targets with it. It gets a feel for how the gun reacts and the size of the gun on the screen, ergonomics, scope and speed, all of that sort of stuff really does make a difference, and you can really get used to it as you go. Number three is different scopes and optics with different zoom levels. Now Tarkov has a huge range of scopes, collimators and optics to choose from, all with different zoom ranges and effects that can at times take some getting used to. And maybe you'll find your preference by testing out some you've never tried before. Either way, this practice mode gives you the chance to get used to whatever you choose. You can get used to switching between multiple targets at multiple ranges and angles with your optic and get you ready for the raids ahead. Number four is pushing and holding. Now scavs won't behave like PMCs, but they are seemingly getting closer and closer to it each wipe. It's pretty easy to mistake a scav occasionally now for a PMC from a distance, as they run around and act sometimes like a player would. This means that in practice mode, you can practice holding angles, off angles, and peeking and leaning against live targets, as once they figure out where you are, they sort of tend to push you eventually in some way. You can also turn the tables here and get your practice in pushing a target that you have information on early and get some confidence up on your corner swinging and aggressive point firing. All in all though guys, I recommend giving at least some of the tips in this guide a try, and for you veteran players, it's not a bad warm up before your first raid of the day to help keep that aim dialed. If you found this guide helpful or entertaining at all, consider subscribing to the channel, or come watch it all unfold live over in the purple place with the link in the bio. I'll have more Escape from Tarkov guides and entertaining videos coming very soon and consistently for all of 2024, so I hope to see more of you. Big love. One's dead. Maybe two dead. 3 dead.